and on one. And being, it's the AV Community Talk meeting, and we have, it's a Monday, as it usually is, and we have Sam and Sigu and Joao and Ben. Yay! So let's get the agenda sheet into gear. As I've mentioned in other meetings today, I've had not a lot of sleep, and so I'm just sort of skating on the edge of. I haven't really no idea if I'm making sense, or maybe I'm just dreaming. You know, maybe I'm just sort of. Is any of this really happening? I have no idea. I heard there's a whole. You know, you guys know that the comedian Mark Maron or Mark Maron.
Yeah, the WTF podcast guy.
Yeah, so WTF. I didn't realize he had a podcast. I was listening to Barack Obama on his podcast yesterday, and that was
quite a get.
Yeah, and I'm like, was that? I was kind of listening to try and help myself go to sleep, and then I was anyway. There you go. Is it all real? Is it real? Can we believe it's all happening? So we have a couple of agenda items for today that I did put in the chat there. Oh yeah. So one of them is about using Gitcoin.co incentives. That's in Ethereum in the AV ecosystem. I think is an interesting topic for discussion. We've also got something that JP and I have been talking about, just putting more structure into AV. Does anybody else have any things they'd like to see discussed or brought up in the meeting today?
I don't think so. I was excited about the Gitcoin thing, and I got a bunch of questions about it.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get into that soon. I guess there's also we've got our new contributor award to give out as well, and I guess I just highlight about the new AV Community Talk sequence. So what we're doing going forward is basically we alternate. So like this week is a AV Community Talk week in which the focus is AV Community Talk, and we give out the AV Contributor Award of the fortnight, and then every other week, so like next Monday, although I'll be off next week, hopefully I can find someone to run it for me. We have a focus on new members. So we last Monday was Joao, myself, and a new member, and we had a focus on answering new member questions and so on. So yeah, and we're going to keep rotating that in order to have a regular point at which new members can kind of feel safe to come in and ask about Agile Ventures and so on. So that's the structure that we have going forward. Well, let's do the AV Contributor Awards. So 2 weeks ago, we had the first AV Contributor Award that went to Nicola for his outstanding contributions to local support and Website One, and it's just been a real pleasure to work with Nicola, and he's getting involved now as well in SHF project, and just he's everywhere, doing lots of things. Very, very solid. So now it gives me great pleasure. Let me just so this is the mentors. We nominate people in Agile Ventures for their contributions, and it's giving me great pleasure this week to say that Ben has won the contribution award for his recent and continued contributions and involvement in the deep learning mobs, Elixir, Ethereum, also contributions to Website One, the Wiki EDU dashboard collab, the Paranauts projects, and there's like appreciation across the board for Ben's efforts and input into Agile Ventures. And Ben, we'd like to say big thank you, and so you are the second recipient of the Agile Ventures Contributor Award.
Wonderful. This is unexpected. I when you mentioned it, I was like, well, I got to step up so I can maybe be in the contention for this. But in fact, that's very exciting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's been fun so far, and it's satisfying to be in such illustrious company because Nicola is clearly a very knowledgeable individual. So I'm honored. Thank you.
No, it's great to have you there. I'm just having someone is just knocking at my door. Give me just a second. Okay. It's my son not being able to find his mobile phone. There we go. So apologies for the interruption there. Yes. Thank you, Ben, for great contribution so far. Looking forward to more in the future, and we'll get your name up on the special contributions thing, and eventually we'll have like the new. We're working on a new logo for the contribution awards. But yes, thank you very much. Let's move on then to our Gitcoin brethren, shall we say? So this is, I heard a podcast. They are an interesting set of folks based in Colorado. I think it's actually a for-profit organization. And actually they've created a company. But they, as I was explaining in the website one meeting earlier on today, they basically have a framework to, when you get an issue done on GitHub, you can receive some Ethereum for that. Not necessarily very much, but it's, every little helps. And I'm chatting with the founder, CEO of Gitcoin, and thinking, we could be getting some Angel Ventures projects in there, and getting some, what is it? The key thing is get some Ethereum rewards on issues on AV projects is my main thoughts. We've already had a couple of people come through from their community and join ours, and I feel certainly certain projects like Website One, we're getting a bit overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we need to do, and anything that would kind of like mix it up and kind of get a bit more of this, a few more eyeballs on some of our bugs would be very welcome indeed. I particularly wanted to bring it up at this meeting because, is this the right move? People might say that, open source needs to be pure and not associated with any financial reward. But there you go. I've got a few other things potentially to show, but does anybody have any questions? Ben, you're saying you had some questions. Any questions or thoughts about the idea behind this?
Yeah, I think that I don't know. This is kind of more like a bug bounty kind of model, right?
Right. Exactly.
So has that kind of thing been dismissed or disparaged among open source purists? Even that type of thing, like, oh, you shouldn't even be working for that.
I don't think, I certainly haven't heard them say that. I was sort of anticipating that some people might say, if we set this up like this, then people might get involved for the wrong reasons. Also, in the process of working through the Gitcoin, I was sort of looking for, just to sort of try out their system, looking for a simple thing to work on. And I found like the one beginner issue that's still open on their list of things is, happened to be then, like, I clicked through that, and the person who opened the issue originally had said, like, I'm not so comfortable with this, bug bounty thing. So I think it's not, I've got like an existence proof that at least one person somewhere is uncomfortable. Although I don't know why. But that, I thought I'd bring it up. Does it make any of us uncomfortable, the idea of this?
Not me, because there's no profit involved necessarily. I mean, it's just an individual getting a little bit of something, but not not some kind of enterprise that's going to have any ownership or anything like that. So in that sense, I don't really think it controverts the mission of open source software development. I don't know.
Okay. In my opinion, I actually agree with you, but also in my opinion, open source and for charity, I think they're two different things. When you talk about open source, then it means we have the source code, you can work with it or whatever you want. And charity simply means we have a group of volunteers, and the moment you start giving some financial payback to the volunteers, then you're not sure whether they are really volunteers or they are working for that particular financial return. And talking about open source, I know a couple of open source projects that pay people to work on them. So if we consider it as open source, it's perfectly okay. But if we think about it as a charity and a group full of volunteers, then it might make some people uncomfortable.
That makes sense. Because open source just refers to the type of license you're using for the software, right?
Yep.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting that the open source in combination with GitHub means that I mean it's one thing to distribute the source of the code. It's another thing to have a framework set up where it's very easy to contribute. So the nature of GitHub makes it like particularly compared to how it was in the past, very easy for almost anyone to contribute, and then makes it relatively easy for the maintainers to merge things if they want to. So they're kind of, by putting your open source code on GitHub, and particularly if you put in a good README and all the other things that help people make submissions, then you're kind of setting up to say, unless you like remove the issues in the pull request functionality or whatever and just sort of ignore it, you're kind of setting yourself up to say, we are potentially going to receive volunteer contributions to our code base, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And these days, I think a lot of what organizations, whether for profit or not, do is they look to what people are contributing, off their own backs, and then they will, potentially hire or compensate people, down the line, given that they've had this sort of try before you buy experience of working with them.
Also makes sense.
But Siggo has a good point, is that, by I think if there are financial incentives involved, then a group of a voluntary contribution has a different flavor, shall we say, in that if there are no monetary compensation for working on an issue, then you can kind of say, well, okay, they're not doing it for the money, they're doing it for their interest, they're doing it potentially for the prestige, for their experience. I mean, they have other motivations, but that you can kind of, in the short term, rule out, a financial motivation. If you have a financial incentive associated with the individual issue, as Gitcoin does, and this is like Gitcoin then has multiple projects in here, and this is the like Uber list of all the different ones, then I guess you can say conceivably there are people here, this may attract people who are only interested in the money and not particularly interested in other things about the projects or what they're trying to achieve or what have you.
Do you think it's likely that that'll happen?
Yeah,
that's kind of
I really think. Yeah, I really think that's going to happen, and we might also consider some guided questions. If we think about it, are we a community of volunteers? If that's the answer, then rewarding using cash will really make us not a community of volunteers, because people might start talking about how much Ethereum they've earned from the contributions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I mean, from my point of view, like I know we were talking about this last week in the context of the Agile Ventures charity. The Agile Ventures charity has two aims, which is one, to promote education and understanding of open source and software development, for everyone around the world, anybody who wants it. It's about open access to all. And two is to help other charities. From my point of view, there's no informing what Agile Ventures is trying to be. There's no commitment on my part, or I don't think it's like it's important that everybody doing stuff for Agile Ventures are themselves volunteers. I think what's important to me is that everybody involved is learning and is being supported to learn as best they possibly can, and the things that they are building for their learning purposes are to try and have, they're trying to support other organizations that are trying to have a positive impact in the world. If you know what I mean. Those to me are the two key goals that are kind of connected to each other, because I believe that the most powerful learning takes place in the context of like real world projects helping real people. So like that's for me what it's all about. And then whether everybody in Agile Ventures is being paid or not being paid, or occasionally gets bug bounties, is kind of like a separate issue for me. It would be like, I guess what I am interested in is growing the Agile Ventures community, and my hope is that adding something like this, bug bounties, could help us grow. If that then disincentivized volunteers and it caused a wholesale shift in the community, I think that would be a shame, because I would like to see the very positive, well-intentioned, friendly community that we have now grow and continue to be all those things. So it would be a shame if something like this would work against that. But whether everybody should or shouldn't be volunteers, I have no kind of like religious or a priori commitment to it's in. Like, if I had the funds, everybody in Agile Ventures would be being paid handsomely for their time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would love everybody to be able to have the financial freedom to devote as much time as they wanted to their education and to helping other positive causes around the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that makes sense. And I think that people, just speaking for myself, I mean, my motivation is learning, and there are various reasons why I'm motivated to learn. Some of which are related to finance, and some of which are not. It's not something that would change how I behaved at all, I don't think, in this context. But it would be welcome to me at the same time. So that's, you know what I mean? That's so I don't think, I mean, I can imagine a scenario where we're just inundated with a bunch of people that have set up bots to scrape the web for places where you can get bug bounties, and
right.
They're these mercenary hackers that have been doing it for years, and they just bang these things out and move on and collect the Ethereum. And I don't know how likely a scenario that is, but barring that, I don't see it as a subversion of the mission you described.
And I think we would have very small amounts of Ethereum, so there'd be and I think it's partly we've got like one Ethereum project, and just Ethereum is a new kind of decentralization of the financial system. It's just kind of like an interesting thing to get involved in, just to try and understand how it works. Like this, like in order to get these things, you use this MetaMask tool to kind of like Web 3.0 enable your browser and so on. Yeah, so I'd see it as an experiment.
We've got the mob that's working on that stuff.
Right, exactly. Yes,
this is why I'm particularly interested.
Yeah, and but yes, I think it would be an experiment that we would monitor carefully, and if we felt that it was having the wrong kind of impact on the community, then we would terminate the experiment. But JP, go on, Sigurd.
From what you just said, then it's totally understandable if we had the bug bounty for particular projects, and just in case someone is uncomfortable with that, then we might give them an option of probably sliding a maximum of 1 Ethereum and a minimum of 0. So if you don't want any Ethereum about that, you can forgo that.
You're saying offer people the option about how much of the right. So it could be kind of like people could say, well, thanks, I bug bounty is great. Actually, I'll take half of it and donate the rest to charity or what have you.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, or maybe they can close that, then they donate that to charity, just like you said.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that I need to complete like the cycle of working on one of their things. It seems like you need to explicitly claim the money. So I think they maybe already have a framework for if you don't claim it. And I think we would be looking at small grants or funds associated with Agile Ventures projects. And so if people just chose not to take the bounty, that would be available for us to use on other issues. That's a great point, Sigu. JP, any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, I do. So first of all, I'd like to understand a little bit more, like, what would that implicate on us, for us?
The implications for us.
The implications for us in terms of like projects. Do you need to have like the issues on GitHub? You don't have to have the issues on GitHub. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I think you need to have issues on GitHub, and you need to, say, like, as a funder, you need to go in through the system and say, right, bug bounty, here's my issue on GitHub. This is how much, like, and you're using MetaMask, and you've got a certain amount of Ethereum in their main network, and you can basically then spend that on their the bug bounties, and then and the thing about Ethereum is that you can then have a contractual framework built into it, so that when you agree that the thing is being completed, then the money will be transferred to the third party and not before.
Those kinds of things can be built into the contract.
Right.
So what's the source of the Ethereum then?
Well, the source of the Ethereum would have to be Agile Ventures itself, or, and this is the thing that I'm discussing with the people at Gitcoin, is they have a certain amount of money that they've raised, and they've just opened, this is like after discussion, Owocki is one of the main focus CEO, he's like having the idea that there will be grants available for open source projects. Open source projects can apply for, some chunks of the money that they've raised. And I was saying to him, I think some process where you could do like matched funding would be the way to go. But it would be like, we have some very small resources for Agile Ventures, and it's we'll see. I mean, like if they can provide funding, that's fantastic. I think it's interesting enough that it's maybe worth us spending a little bit of money on this. First I will need to do another round of like seeing how it all works. But yeah, before I did that, I wanted to kind of bring it up in the community meeting and see if people had any strong feelings about it either way.
Are they involved at all in mining Ethereum, or
no?
Did they get their funding in dollars?
I think they get their funding in dollars. I don't think so. Yeah, they're a company, and I think they have some venture funding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think that the venture model for them is that if this became mainstream, their model is they're taking some little slice of all of these things, and that could become very profitable for them in the long run if it took off.
Makes sense.
Okay, I was looking at your notes, and there was another point we talked about, and it seems it's not covered here.
Oh yeah.
Now, if someone provides, if we have an option of not taking the Ethereum, then it means someone can donate that Ethereum to a charity, as we said before, if that is possible.
Right, and I mean, I think donate that to other charity. I mean, and that's the kind of thing that the whole of the Y project is about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Allowing proportions of it to go through. I was speaking to Will, and I think Will would love to get his project to the point where he had separate issues for people to work on, but it's a bit early days for him. But I think I'm gonna need to go fairly soon. I think I'm gonna take that as a general, positive response to the idea of doing this.
Just before we go into this conclusion, is this okay in terms of our charity, like in terms of our licensing with the UK government, being a non-profit? Is this model okay?
Yeah.
Or is there any legal problem with this?
there's there's what we can't do is we can't pay dividends to shareholders, and we can't like sell stock in Agile Ventures, right? That's what we're prevented from doing. There's nothing that prevents us from paying people to do work for Agile Ventures.
So it's like a
even
non-profit here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so even if, because like we have people that are more or less shareholders, right? That are the ones that can vote on the meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Aren't they considered shareholders? And
No.
if we are paying them, isn't that a problem?
No, it would be we can't pay the trustees. It would be a problem if trustees were receiving money through this framework, but the members, it's not a problem.
Okay, cool.
There aren't actually any shares because you're not selling stock. There hasn't been an IPO or
the members have no ownership of the sort of organization. The members purely have voting rights in terms of electing trustees.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but it's a good point.
I think it's a good idea, and it's something to investigate, and we should see like what kind of. Also, we need to see like how much would that cost us in terms of like real money, because we need to get that Ethereum, and I think that's a pretty interesting way to see if this is something that attracts more people, because that's also one of the things that we want, right? Attract more people, and eventually, in order to have this balance of like everybody wants to come in and just do some things, we can bump this and say you can only be part of the projects that give you Ethereum if you are a more like full member of IV. Sure. So if you're paying for some sort of
we have different tiers of membership.
This could be added to a tier where you're paying for to be on Agile Ventures, and only then you can start doing things. So I'm not sure, like this might be like we call it before the what was it, like the
paid projects?
I don't remember. We had paid projects, yeah. So this could be part of only for the paid projects.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, and we do actually have paid projects now. We have 3 of them and a new one, which so it's good points, very good points. Excellent discussion. I don't know how much more time you've got, JP. I've got a little bit of time. I popped this in because of various things that you've said recently. I think you're keen to see more structure in AV, and I wanted to create a little space. Like, what are the action items that we can take? Do you want to just briefly summarize for Ben and Sigu, who maybe didn't hear before, your concerns about wanting to get some more structure into AV?
So recently we started our the journey from MatPlus. We put that into production. We have now Pets. It's running in production, and we started giving some support to the application itself. And all the process that took us from we have this application to now we have a client that is paying us to provide them a service. It's pretty hard because there's no support for it on AV, and we don't have any kind of guidelines. We don't have any information, and from the moment that you get into support, you have SAM, and that's it. Then if SAM is there, it's fine. If SAM is not there, we have a problem. So I think we're missing. I started this let's call it quest a couple of months ago, and trying to. I think we need, if we want to move AV into a model where we have clients and we pick up those clients and we start getting them to pay us to do them services, then we need to have a little bit more structure. We need to have people that sell AV. We need to have people that support the current website. We need to have people that are effectively contributing. So, for example, one of the problems that we currently have is that we are all volunteers, right? So, everyone except for Erica, since 2 weeks ago, developing on MetPlus. He's paying us just for support. That's right. But from the moment that you start paying for support, you expect to have some sort of, I don't know, some other treatment. So you're paying now. So are you only paying for support or for a little bit more than support? I don't know. So that's where I started asking to, okay, I think we should have some sort of different method and have maybe some people that take care of this and have more structure from that. So this is more or less my pitch in here. Questions or not, and action items that we can get here, that would be something that would be interesting to start the conversation on. And once again, I'm very happy that we have more people here, but I'm very sad that we are 4 in here. And if this is something all the AV community, and that's something that I believe should concern all the AV community, it's very sad that we only have 4 people like every week in the meeting where we take decisions for AV. So yeah, I'll shut up now. I've been talking for too long.
Hey, no problem. No, good points.
I wish Sam would say that. So, did you mean like a core team that works on maybe a project or that oversees all the projects? That might be.
I think in general, what we're missing is we have this MetPlus project. I'm also talking because I'm like a little bit suffering on this, because we have this project that came into AV and we started. Now it's in production and there's nobody else to work on it, and that's fine if the client is not in an ongoing relationship with us. But if we do have someone that is in an ongoing relationship with us, we need to be more careful with those clients. And what I'm saying is that eventually a core team that might make sense, but their core team would have to split their time between doing things in multiple places, because we don't have just one project.
Yeah. Okay. So I can talk about myself and the MetPlus project, and there was a time I took a long break from Agile Ventures. Then when I came back, there was a little bit of silence on MetPlus, and I could not really get enough information about what's going on in MetPlus. So I kind of stopped working on it. That was my first project on Agile Ventures. I would really have loved to continue working with it, but the force that we used to have with MetPlus went down when it went to production. So also the team, if we could have such a team, then they could be able to give directions as to which projects are still alive and what's happening in those particular projects.
Yeah, that's a good idea, sharing information about projects that currently are alive and everything. I think we don't have an aggregated place where you can see the projects that are active. When we have new members coming in, we have a list of projects, and we have oh, these are the projects that are currently alive. But in the end, if you talk to the person that just pushed that to you and just sent that information to you, that person knows about 1 or 2 projects, and there's no place where we can tell, okay, oh, look, these are the projects that are alive, and this is currently what's happening. So this will require more work from the people that are in the projects to have some sort of of what's happening. But I think that might be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I actually suffered with that today when I was trying to look for projects from a part of the team I'm working with, and I was not able to point out which projects they could start with, and I just told them to go into local support and start working because it's more mentioned during the Scrum hours.
No, that's Sam's fault. We need to bring Sam to other projects so we can
Well,
have
or we need to bring
there.
other people into the scrums to mention their projects.
No, I like the idea of bringing Sam.
Well, you know, I'm very affordable. Ben, any thoughts on what we're discussing?
I think maybe I'm not in deep enough to really have because I can't say I've experienced what's being described myself. Not that I'm saying it doesn't happen. So I'm afraid I don't have much to add.
Oh no, well it was interesting to know where you are, and I think it's interesting also that maybe your experience is influenced by the fact that you're a premium member and other factors also, but you know, relatively new. I think that like my concern with is the same with all these things. I think at the bottom line is, like, if we were a venture company, right, and we were thinking, oh yes, we can make a company in the long run that's profitable and sustainable, and we'll do that by getting in a number of these, like, say, contracts. So we'll have lots of clients and they'll be paying subscriptions for support, and we'll have an economy of scale, and that'll be good. And the venture capital model is right, let's get the investment up front. You put together a help desk, all these different things, and there's money for people to do that, and then you can deliver a certain level of support based on having that money up front. And we're doing things a different way with a charity model, and we are like Joao, for you, this is the first experience for you of taking like MetPlus like into production and paying things. We've had other like local support. The client's been paying for that and support for a couple of years, and it's been running away. And again, it relies on me. I mean, I get help from the ongoing developer community, like from local support, because that's kind of consistently stayed around. I guess the challenging thing there that we say, like, yeah, ideally it wouldn't rely specifically on me, but I guess what we've got to the question becomes then, what mechanism do we have for incentivizing other people to get involved in the let's say the DevOps support for MetPlus?
Ethereum?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. That's why it looks like an interesting. The first point on this meeting looks like an interesting place to start. But I liked what Sigu said, like what he was saying about you cannot find like in any place more information on how the project is or where the project. When he wants to start working on something, there's no information, so you go to the one that you heard last about. That's a nice model if you have people working, but for some reason, if you lose like all the people that were working there or almost all the people, you lose the track of it. So like, for example, SHF at this point is like on the peak, but when everybody leaves, if someone wants to keep on working on SHF, it's going to be like 1-2 people, and then nobody else will ever hear about it.
Well, and it's like the same situation where Osra is at the moment. Yeah. Like the clients just popped up again and said, "Oh, we'd like somebody to work on something, but there's nobody there, and there's like a security vulnerability, but there's nobody there." It's I think, I mean, it comes back to our kind of onboarding process. We've got like. I'm not very satisfied with them myself. We've got like a number of entry points, which each of them by themselves is insufficient, and the process of changing them requires effort and engineering effort. I mean, the projects page basically gets updated by like this, at least if it's still working, is that these projects are here ordered in terms of when they last had a GitHub update, which is an indicator of their recency of activity. Although there's no way that you would know that very easily from this page unless I actually told you and drove you there and explained it like I am now. And even then, it's not necessarily good. We've got the getting started document, which is trying to say, like, you know, here's another list, you know, which is editable. It's got like a little thing about saying how to try and get in there. But absolutely, it directs you to go to, you know, the Slack. And so, for example, like in Met Plus, if people come in and say, hey, what's going on? And there's not people around, and we just added like a little bot to it. But yeah, I kind of agree totally. Like all of the things that we have at the moment are kind of insufficient. I mean, it's also about documentation, but the documentation by itself is kind of insufficient. I mean, what they sort of want is to be handheld. You know, everybody wants to like connect with a vibrant, friendly community where people say, hey, great to have you with us. Let's help you get settled in, and so on. And yeah, I mean, yeah, total agreement there. I guess the question then becomes, how do we change from what we have now to make, you know, to support all of the communities to be as welcoming as possible, and to sort of like, you know, increase the chances that the people stick around and keep doing things. Oops, well, I'm on a random page there that I probably shouldn't be on. Oh well. Gosh, I haven't enough sleep. But can we? So agreeing with JP and Sigu, can we turn the? I think we kind of agreed the change, the kind of things we need. Can we turn that into action items that we could take?
You mean talking about perhaps what we would have to build?
Well, or I mean, we've got like Sigu, you got that specific situation there of you wanted to know which projects were active, and you weren't sure how to go and find that information. Mm-hmm. And what would have been, you know, would it have been like a bot in Slack that told you something, or would it have been a nice fast loading page somewhere in Agile Ventures, or what would have been the ideal form for you to receive that information?
Okay, the first, actually what I did first, let me act like a new user. Let me say exactly what I did. I went into the new members because I knew new members normally get the list of current projects,
right.
of projects. And after getting the projects, I would not know which one was active. So I was clicking through and checking how active the channel is.
Right.
Yeah, when was the last update in the channel? Then after that, I slacked Sage. I slacked Sage about the other project, and we started talking. Sorry, and I believe no beginner, very few beginners would have such confidence to go and DM someone about that. So probably if we could give the beginners guidance, which project do you want? I want a project running on Ruby Rails or React.
Right. Yeah.
Here's a list of the projects that you could work on.
Yeah.
So maybe a bot maybe, or
yeah.
I don't know how you could do that.
Well, it's interesting actually that you mentioned that. So is that we did in the design sprint last year for new members, is we ended up like focusing on a different part of in the design sprint last year, we ended up focusing on like trying to prototype a big thing that like presented the value proposition for Agile Ventures, and we still haven't got that kind of into production or into the thing. I mean, you know, we kind of drown in just like the minutiae of other little bugs and things. But so there was this was the prototype that we developed for that, with the idea of trying to show the pathways and like how the different things that there are in Agile Ventures, the stand-ups, the real projects, and so on, how they kind of and the sprints and so on, how they contribute to you getting to some place that you maybe like to be. But so the other thing that we were talking about is a process where, so we didn't build this prototype, but I just recently was blogging about it again, because I'm like going back right through it. But it would be basically a system where you kind of select, like say, like technology stack, and then it kind of filters out, like, of the list of all projects, oh, here are the things, and I wonder if I've got the version of it. I mean, but so I guess in some ways, this then comes down to what we're doing in the Website One meeting is we're talking about a new React front end that would actually be able to provide something like this. I think it's in Agile Ventures Design Sprint Day 2. Is it in Day 2? Sorry if it's going to take me a second to find this. What did we have? No, this was all of that was all of our other different bits and pieces. But yeah, I mean, I think that I would, the thing that frustrates me the most at the moment is that the DevOps overhead, or the sort of maintenance overhead on all of the sort of different legacy projects, they sort of get in the way, at least for me personally, of building a new thing. This is right. So this was Matt's version of kind of like having a step-by-step, and then I was doing like this was my prototype, which got criticized for being a bit cold, but it was trying to show like the sequence of things that you could do, and then it was like a series of questions. So it's like, how much time do you have, right? And you click through, and then it's like, what tech stacks do you like, and then you would, through this interactive process, it would sort of suggest, oh, these are the projects, maybe even in the time zones, that will likely work best for you.
The one thing that makes me, that this makes me wonder about is if somebody already knows what kind of tech stack they want to work with, then why would we assume that they don't know how to look at GitHub and find and use Slack and do all the things you need to do in order to figure out what projects, the data about the projects that are available, like, which one has most activity, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, if you're really talking about a beginner, then you don't want to ask them what tech stack they like, because they might not even know what that means exactly. But if they're not a beginner and they're like, well, I like the idea of working with Ruby on Rails or whatever, then presumably they would have enough familiarity with stuff to know. I mean, which was kind of my situation. I mean, and it seems like it was yours too, Sigurd.
Yeah, that was my situation, and I can talk about when I came back to MetPlus. I came back, worked on an issue, opened a pull request. It was not really reviewed because it was not as active, and it took almost a week without a review. I had to DM Patrick, but he wasn't around. So I'm assuming a first-time person coming in and such a thing happens to them. If such happened to me for the first time, I don't think I would be back. But the first time I came to Agile Ventures, Patrick took me through the project. He showed me how the project works. We did our first pull request together. And ever since that day, I've done that to like more than 5 people, just to get them comfortable as I was gotten comfortable starting up a project. And I would wish that we would have that.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes all the difference for people, is having somebody to walk through these things with them. I mean, just a point for what you were saying there, Ben, is I think it's absolutely true. There are some people who are not who are confident and can easily use GitHub to find a project and contribute to, and it's not a big deal. I think that there are people who, they've learned a bit of but it's like you're a beginner, like you're kind of what's the word? Your ability with tech and your confidence level are potentially different. Like maybe there's a relation, but they can also be orthogonal. I think that there's there are people who, have maybe done a bit of Rails and they want to get in open source, and like the open source is a new thing. So they probably they're kind of not very confident about it, and they're, they want to stay in their comfort zone of doing Rails or Node or whatever it happens to be, but they need some scaffolding, exactly like Sigurd was saying, in terms of like, oh, how do I get involved? I mean, that confidence to enter a stand-up, DM somebody, ask in a public channel, and so on. I think there's huge numbers of people who just that's a step too far. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I guess the thing with anything like this is, is anything, however slickly designed, ever going to replace having a human like Patrick, or dare I say myself, help you when you arrive and get through the process? And so, like, for all of the effort we could go into making like a lovely UX experience, maybe the key thing is working out how we can incentivize project managers to come and be committed and stay around, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because this stuff is so complicated that the apprenticeship model, in a sense, works a little bit better. You can't just do here's an example. I thought I was okay at GitHub. I've been on GitHub for years, and I've used it on various projects that I've worked with people. Right. But I was in a conversation with Sage, I think, on the Wiki-IDEO dashboard, and I hadn't configured it to email me when there were updates to that conversation. So as a result, I missed a couple of responses, and then it looked like I had just fallen off the edge of the world or something, when in fact I was just kind of working on a lot of different stuff and sort of assumed I would get updated if there was important information. And it's just a matter of sort of select. I mean, it isn't even a complicated engineering thing. It's just, well, when it's not on by default that you get notified when you're in these conversations on GitHub, which is fine. It shouldn't be necessarily, because you'll be spammed unnecessarily if you're doing it a lot. But it's one of those things where, if there's someone sitting beside you watching what you do at the beginning, and they're like, oh, make sure you click that button, then you're less likely. It'll be more efficient. You'll learn things more quickly, and it won't really require that much pedagogical effort on anyone's part. It's not like trying to explain an extremely complex issue to somebody.
No. But it becomes there's like this big emotional barrier to, here's the thing I'm just not sure how to do. How can I do it? And too many of those, and you just get completely stuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things, like if someone else can just show you how to do it, it's the fact that they're there and they're being nice and they're showing you, and you're like, oh, okay, and it suddenly becomes not a big deal. And there's all sorts of attempts to turn that into like, widgets and this, that, and the other. But yeah, that kind of gossiping, showing your partner thing is a very, very effective method of information exchange.
But it's also really valuable, and I have to, frankly, I kind of didn't really expect that. I mean, I think that would be a lot to expect. You know what I mean? Because to be like, well, sit with me for an entire week and watch everything I do. That's people that have that level of expertise.
It doesn't have to be the whole week, but even, right. I mean, that's the whole point of Agile Ventures with the scrums.
Yeah,
is that we can learn, little bits of knowledge can rub off, here and there and here and there. Similarly with the Slack and so on. And I mean, really, I talked earlier on about the vision of Agile Ventures being, open, accessible to everybody. You can come in and just learn and pick up whatever you want, and that we're all doing it in the context of building things for the greater good and to help have a positive impact on the world. I mean, my real vision is that it achieves a level of critical mass so that we had not. I mean, at the moment it's not bad. We've got 4 or 5 projects that have got that are kind of humming. I'd love to have 100 projects that were really humming, and you'd be getting all the synergy between the different projects. That it would be like a target-rich environment. We've got our list of projects that we're saying in the oh gosh, come on! Why every time I try and drag this across, it gets stuck, and it's just so annoying. I'm gonna have to go in a minute. Like, just trying to show you. Come on, come here. There we go. Like in here, like basically a Met Plus, Downtown St. Charles, website 2, are not really active. Yeah, bots open peer power. But I mean, basically, I know the exact status of all of these projects, right? And I could tell you like in detail about all of them. I mean, at the moment it's not good relying upon Sam's brain, but it's there. Yeah, I would love to get it to where you could really just pop into those channels and you would see a big stream of fun chat from everybody in, you know, a sufficiently large number of projects. But yeah, again, how do we get from where we are now to there? I guess we'll give Ethereum a try, and I'm totally open to any. You know, I'm really committed to this for the long run because I really believe in this style of learning and the community and the trying to make the world a better place. But
I hope you didn't take the wrong way what I said. I do too. I think it's the best thing it could be.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I certainly wasn't being offended. I was just sort of saying like, oh, you know, that thing that you were saying that you didn't have that expectation. Yeah, I know it's a lot to expect, but I'd still love to get there.
Yeah, so that you could always, you never alone if you didn't want to be.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there would be. I mean, it's the same with the Paranauts thing. Is like, you know, I mean, that's the other direction. Is, you know, I think it's a big complex thing to make all of the projects about these not-for-profit things. For the Paranauts, if you can be just like pairing on Kata and much more simple little things, then maybe that's an easier way to build a critical mass. But yeah, Sigu, JP, let's think of new ways to get this done. JP, are we gonna meet on Thursday with Chet?
I'm not. Did he answer to you? Because like that, I don't. The thing is, usually, if you're the one sending the emails, he'll reply to you, but he doesn't do reply. Also, I have no clue.
Okay.
Did he reply to you?
I'm looking now. Yeah. Sorry to just change tax there quickly, guys. This is but all the things that JP's talking about, the Met Plus project. We've agreed we kind of need to have a meeting with Chet and work out what the new deal is going forward. But I think as Sigu's initiative, Sigu's got a new sort of like code meetup group thing happening in Kenya, which sounds really interesting. Okay, so I think he's replied to me. He says Thursday is good for me. What time? So I'm going to reply and CC you and put the time in. I mean, I've given like him a booking calendar, but he's ignored it. So anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's fine.
I'm struggling. It's great to see you all. Sorry, I'm so incoherent and I talk too much. We'll keep working on that. You got Sigu, you got to talk more and just drown me out. That's the way to go. Yeah.
Okay, now Rizal.
Good stuff. All right. Big congratulations to Ben again on getting our contributor award. I'm sure it'll be the first of many accolades for great ongoing contributions. Have a fantastic rest of your Solar Sojourn, folks, and see you all very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers, guys.